Run. And if you can't run, then walk. And if you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, don't stop. It's only been an hour since everyone on Earth, as far as I could tell, heard those same words. I was already walking through the park when I heard them, and after seeing what happens, I won't be stopping anytime soon. It's been 2 hours now. I've kept walking. I'm tired, but stopping is not an option. Some people try driving, but the act of getting in a car requires stopping, even for the briefest moment. And as those already driving when they heard the rules soon found out, it's impossible to move indefinitely in a vehicle, especially in a crowded city. Their screams kept me moving. It's been 4 hours now and I'm exhausted, with the only thing pushing me forward being the fear of what awaits when I stop. And yes, I mean when, proven by plenty of those around me, eventually I'll have to stop. Some have just given up, accepting their fate only to immediately regret the decision. Some just couldn't take the screams anymore. And most simply don't see the point of continuing. And with every step, I'm starting to become more like the latter. It's been about 6 hours, and for the first time I saw what happens up close. I was walking aimlessly down an alley, trying to get away from the madness, when I saw a young man no more than 16 crying. It didn't even register at first to me until he made eye contact with me. He had stopped moving. His eyes were bloodshot, and not just whites around his pupils. I mean, the entirety of his eyes were crimson red. Black tears streamed down his expressionless face, and then he smiled. A wide, toothy smile that would have screamed of joy if it wasn't followed by animalistic screams that would give the biggest horror fanatic nightmares. I wish I could say witnessing his dying moments was the most horrific thing to happen to me today, but then it hit me, the realization that I had stopped moving. Emergency alert. Warning, this is not a test, I repeat, this is not a test. Citizens of the world, lock all doors. Close all of your blinds. Do not go near any windows. Do not look outside. Do not leave your house. Stay in a room with no windows. Gather what supplies you can. Turn all of the lights off. Do not open the door for anything. When I first heard it, it didn't even sound real. It sounded fake, like something in a horror movie. But it was an emergency, so I decided I probably should do what they tell me. I grabbed a flashlight, pillow, my phone, charger, food, and basic other stuff to keep me entertained while this stuff happened. I had no idea what was going on, but once I got into my bathroom and got comfy, I texted my parents asking them if they got the alert. They also did. They said citizens of the world. Did they actually broadcast that to world? I asked myself. So I texted an internet friend that lives across the world and they said they got it too. Same exact message. And to be honest, it's kind of scary. They tell you what to do, but not what's going on, and people are scared of that. 20 minutes later. Emergency alert. This is not a test, I repeat. This is not a test. Unknown creatures have been knocking on people's doors and been killing people that open the door. There are 5 major hotspots: Washington, D.C., Tokyo, Toronto, Moscow, and London. They have been located all around, but it seems as if they are attacking those first. This is an invasion. Stay in your rooms. Do not open any doors. Do not look outside. They can kill you instantly with just a look. May God help us all. Emergency nuke sirens are going off. Tornado sirens are going off. What is going on? Is this a prank? How can an invasion be real? Are aliens real? How can I even comprehend that? I had car alarms going off. I hear things being destroyed. They are here, they are killing. It sounds like a war zone out there, but without any guns. What can the government do? Just shoot them? But they would die looking at them. There's no possible way we could ever survive this. We are going to die. I text my parents, but no answer. I text my brother and sister, no answer. I start to panic now. What if my family's gone? And all I can do is listen to other people's families get murdered. The nuke sirens have started again, and they are very loud, shaking my whole apartment. I wonder what the other people in my building are thinking. Probably like me. This is it. This is the end of the world. Everyone on this planet will die. I hear a knock on my door. I don't answer it. I hear someone screaming for me to open it. I mean, it sounded human. Should I open it? Number, that would be stupid. Emergency alert. This is not a test, I repeat. This is not a test. The extraterrestrial are attacking every major city in the world. There is a lot of them. We have not found out what they want. Stay inside. Millions, if not billions, are dead. Stay inside. It's as if the government have given up now. There's no way to fight, and these messages are less helpful each time they come on. If billions are dying, then I don't know how we can survive this. I mean, I have so far. But it doesn't sound like for long. I hear buildings being destroyed. I hear cars being destroyed. My building has been hit a few times. I'm hearing my world crumble before me. At this point, there's no reason to hope anymore. There's so many dying and there is so much chaos, they will get everyone. I would love to know what one of these things looks like. But if I see them, I die. I hope someone takes a picture, and if we do survive, I want to see it. I want to see what's killing us. But the end is nowhere near, and I don't even know how many people we have left. Should I just kill myself? Maybe I should die before they get me. I don't want to die by those things. Plus, what if I do survive and get survivor's guilt? Then there's no way I... Emergency alert. This is not a test, I repeat. This is not a test. The extraterrestrial have left, and left billions of people dead. If you are alive, please tap the button on your phone now. If on a radio, tune to 104 and state your name and city. We will update you in 20 minutes. There's no way I would want to live. That's what I was going to say. And yet, somehow, I'm actually alive. Do I want to die now? Well, no. But how many people are alive? What did these things want? Why did they attack us? There's too many questions to even ask right now. At this point, all we can do is try to figure out some numbers and restart society. How can a world like ours recover from something like this? How long until society is normal again? Will humanity ever be the same? I don't know. What I do know is that I could lost everything. I will text my friends and family and come back with some numbers. Emergency alert. This is not a test. I repeat, this is not a test. We have reported a little over 1 billion people accounted for. Not every country has the technology, so we will investigate those countries in the coming months. We do not understand what these creatures wanted, nor what they have taken. In the next month or two, we will be figuring out the next steps for humanity. May God help us all. Only 3 people I know survived. My sister, my uncle, and my best friend. Everyone else is dead. I want to kill myself. But at the same time, humanity needs me. We need each other to continue human life. Only time will tell what to do next, if there is anything next. The bus rattled and groaned as it trundled over the bumpy country road, shadowed on either side by a dense copse of towering black pine trees. I clenched my fists in my lap, my stomach twisting as the bus lurched suddenly down a steep incline before rising just as quickly, throwing us back against our seats. Are we almost there? My friend Micah whispered from beside me, his cheeks pale and his eyes heavy-lidded as he flicked a glance towards the window. I feel like I might be sick. I shrugged, gazing out at the dark forest around us. Wherever we were going, it seemed far from any towns or cities. I hadn't seen any sort of building or structure in the last 20 minutes, and the last car had passed us miles back, leaving the road ahead empty. It was still fairly early in the morning, and there was a thin mist in the air, hugging low to the road and creating eerie shapes between the trees. The sky was pale and cloudless. We were on our way to a body farm. Our teacher, Mrs. Pinkle, had assured us it wasn't a real body farm. There would be no dead bodies, no rotting corpses with their eyes hanging out of their sockets, and their flesh disintegrating. It was a research center where some scientists were supposedly developing a new synthetic flesh, and our 8th grade class was honored to be invited to take an exclusive look at their progress. I didn't really understand it, but I still thought it was weird that they'd invite a bunch of kids to a place like this. Still, it beat a day of boring lessons. After a few more minutes of clinging desperately to our seats, the bus finally took a left turn, and a structure appeared through the trees ahead of us, surrounded by a tall chain-link fence. "We're almost at the farm," Mrs. Pinkle said from the front of the bus, a tremor of excitement in her voice as she turned in her seat to address us. Remember what I said before we set off. Listen closely to our guide, and don't touch anything unless you've been given permission. This is an exciting opportunity for us all, so be on your best behavior." There was a chorus of mumbled affirmatives from the children, a strange hush falling over the bus as the driver pulled up just outside the compound and cut the engine. "All right, everyone, make sure you haven't left anything behind. Off the bus in single file, please." With a clap of her hand, the bus doors slid open, and Mrs. Pinkle climbed off first. There was a flurry of activity as everyone gathered their things and followed her outside. Micah and I ended up being last, even though we were sat in the middle aisle, mostly because Micah was too polite and let everyone go first, leaving me stuck behind him. I finally stepped off the bus and stretched out the cramp in my legs from the hour-long bus ride. I took a deep breath, then wrinkled my nose. There was an odd smell hanging in the air, something vaguely sweet that I couldn't place, but it made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. "There's no dead bodies here," I had to remind myself, shaking off the anxiety creeping into my stomach. No dead bodies. A tall, lanky-looking man appeared on the other side of the chain-link fence, scanning his gaze over us with a wide, toothy smile. "Open the gate," he said, flicking his wrist toward the security camera, blinking above him, and with a loud buzz, the gate slid open. "Welcome, welcome," he said, his voice deep and gravelly. "We're so pleased to have you here." I trailed after the rest of the class through the gate. As soon as we were all through, it slithered closed behind us. This place felt more like a prison than a research facility, and I wondered what the need was for all the security. "Here at our research facility, you'll find lots of exciting projects led by lots of talented people," the man continued, sweeping his hands in a broad gesture as he spoke. "But perhaps the most exciting of all is our development of a new synthetic flesh, led by yours truly. You may call me Dr. Olson, and I'll be your guide today. Now let's not dally. Follow me, and I'll show you our lab-grown creation." I expected him to lead us into the building, but instead he took us further into the compound. Most of the grounds were covered in overgrown weeds and unruly shrubs, with patches of soil and dry earth. I didn't know much about real body farms, but I knew they were used to study the decomposition of dead bodies in different environments, and this had a similar layout. He took us around the other side of the building, where there was a large open area full of metal cages. I was at the back of the group and had to stand on my tiptoes to get a look over the shoulders of the other kids. When I saw what was inside the cages, a burning nausea crept into my stomach. Large blobs of what looked like raw meat were sitting inside them, unmoving. Was this supposed to be the synthetic flesh they were developing? It didn't look anything like I was expecting. There was something too wet and glistening about it, almost gelatinous. "This is where we study the decomposition of our synthetic flesh," Dr. Olson explained, standing by one of the cages and gesturing towards the blob. "By keeping them outside, we can study how they react to external elements like weather and temperature, and see how these conditions affect its state of decomposition." I frowned as I stared around me at the caged blobs of flesh. None of them looked like they were decomposing in the slightest. There was no smell of rotten meat or decaying flesh. There was no smell at all, except for that strange, sickly sweet odor that almost reminded me of cleaning chemicals, like bleach or something else. "Feel free to come closer and take a look," Dr. Olson said. "Just make sure you don't put your fingers inside the cages," he added, his expression indecipherable. I couldn't tell if he was joking or not. Some of the kids eagerly rushed forward to get a closer look at the fleshy blobs. I hung back, the nausea in my stomach starting to worsen. I wasn't sure if it was the red, sticky appearance of the synthetic flesh or the smell in the air, but it was making me feel a little dizzy too. "Charlie, are you coming to have a look?" Micah asked, glancing back over his shoulder when he realized I wasn't following. Yeah," I muttered, swallowing down the flutter of unease that had begun crawling up my throat. "Not a dead body, just fake flesh," I reminded myself. I reluctantly trudged after Micah over to one of the metal cages and peered inside. Up close, I could see the strange, slimy texture of the red blob much more clearly. Was this really artificial flesh? How exactly did it work? Why did it look so strange? "Crazy, huh?" Micah asked, staring wide-eyed at the blob, a look of intense fascination on his face. Yeah, I agreed half-heartedly. Crazy. Micah tugged excitedly on my arm. Let's go look at the others too. I turned to follow him, but something made me freeze. For barely half a second out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw the blob twitch. Just a faint movement, like a tremor had coursed through it. But when I spun round to look at it, it had fallen still again. I squinted, studying it closely, but it didn't happen again. Had I simply imagined it? There was no other explanation. It was an inanimate blob. There was no way it could move. I shrugged it off and hurried after Micah to look at the other cages. Has everyone had a good look at them? Aren't they just fascinating? Dr. Olson said with another wide grin, once we had all reassembled in front of him. We now have a little activity for you to do while you're here. Everyone take one of these playing sticks. Make sure you all get one. I don't want anyone getting left out. I frowned, trying to get a glimpse of what he was holding. What on earth was a playing stick? When it was finally my turn to grab one, I frowned in confusion. It was more of a spear than a stick, a few centimeters longer than my forearm, and made of shiny metal with one end tapered to a sharp point. It looked more like a weapon than a toy, and my confusion was growing by the minute. What kind of activity required us to use spears? Be careful with these. They're quite sharp, Dr. Olson warned us as we all stood holding our sticks. Don't use them on each other. Someone might get seriously injured. So what do we do with them? One of the kids at the front asked, speaking with her hand raised. Dr. Olson's smile widened again, stretching across his face. I'm glad you asked. You use them to poke the synthetic flesh. The girl at the front cocked her head. Poke? That's right. Just like this. Dr. Olson grabbed one of the spare playing sticks and strode over to one of the cages. Still smiling, he stabbed the edge of the spear through the bars of the cage and straight into the blob. Fresh, bright blood squirted out of the flesh, spattering across the ground and the inside of the cage. My stomach twisted at the visceral sight. That's all there is to it. Now you try. Pick a blob and poke it to your heart's content. I exchanged a look with Micah, expecting the same level of confusion I was feeling, but instead he was smiling, just like Dr. Olson. Everyone around me seemed excited, except for me. The other kids immediately dispersed, clustering around the cages with their playing sticks held aloft. Micah joined them, leaving me behind. I watched in horror as they began attacking the artificial flesh, piercing and stabbing and prodding with the tips of their spears. Blood splashed everywhere, soaking through the grass and painting the inside of the metal cages, oozing from the dozens of wounds inflicted on them. The air was filled with gruesome wet pops as the sticks were unceremoniously ripped from the flesh, then stabbed back into it, joined by the playful and joyous laughter of the class. Were they really enjoying this? Watching the blood go everywhere, specks of red splashing their faces and uniforms. Seeing such a grotesque spectacle was making me dizzy. All that blood, there was so much of it. Where was it all coming from? What was this doing to the blobs? This didn't feel right. None of this felt right. Why were they making us do this? And why did everyone seem to be enjoying it? Did nobody else find this strange? I turned away from the scene, nausea tearing through my stomach. The smell in the air had grown stronger, the harsh scent of chemicals and now the rich metallic tang of blood. It was enough to make my eyes water. I felt like I was going to be sick. I stumbled away from the group, my vision blurring through tears as I searched for somewhere to empty my stomach. I had to get away from it. A patch of tall grasses caught my eye. It was far enough away from the cages that I wouldn't be able to smell the flesh and the blood anymore. I dropped the playing stick to the ground and clutched my stomach with a soft whimper. My mouth was starting to fill with saliva, bile creeping up my throat, burning like acid. My head was starting to spin too. I could barely keep my balance, like the ground was starting to tilt beneath me. Was I going to pass out? I opened my mouth to call out for help. Micah, Mrs. Pinkle, anyone. But no words came out. I staggered forward, dizzy and nauseous, until my knees buckled and I fell into the grass. I was unconscious before I hit the ground. I opened my eyes to pitch darkness. At first I thought something was covering my face, but as my vision slowly adjusted, I realized I was staring up at the night sky. A veil of blackness, pin-pricked by dozens of tiny glittering stars. Where was I? What was happening? The last thing I recalled was being at the body farm. The smell of blood in the air. Everyone being too busy stabbing the synthetic flesh to notice I was about to collapse. But that had been early morning. Now it was already nighttime. How much time had passed? Beneath me, the ground was damp and cold, and I could feel long blades of grass tickling my cheeks and ankles. I was lying on my back outside. Was I still at the body farm? But where was everyone else? Had they left me here? Had nobody noticed I was missing? Had they all gone home without me? Panic began to tighten in my chest. I tried to move, but my entire body felt heavy, like lead. All I could do was blink and slowly move my head side to side. I was surrounded by nothing but darkness. Then I realized I wasn't alone. Through the sounds of my own strained, heavy gasps, I could hear movement nearby, like something was crawling through the grass towards me. I tried to steady my breathing and listen closely to figure out what it was. It was too quiet to be a person. An animal? But were there any animals out here? Wasn't this whole compound protected by a large fence? So what could it be? I listened to it creep closer, my heart racing in my chest. The sound of something shuffling through the undergrowth, flattening the grasses beneath it. Dread spread like shadows beneath my skin as I squeezed my eyes closed, my body falling slack. In horror movies, nothing happened to the characters who were already unconscious. If I feigned being unconscious, maybe whatever was out there would leave me alone. But then what? Could I really stay out here until the sun rose and someone found me? Whatever it was sounded close now. I could hear the soft, raspy sound of something scraping across the ground. But as I slowed my breathing and listened, I realized I wasn't just hearing one thing. There was multiple, coming from all directions, some of them further away than others. What was out there? And had they already noticed me? My head was starting to spin, my chest feeling crushed beneath the weight of my fear. What if they tried to hurt me? The air was starting to feel thick, heavy, difficult to drag in through my nose. And that smell, it was back, chemicals and blood, completely overpowering my senses. My brain flickered back to the synthetic flesh in the cages. Had there been locks on the doors? But surely that was impossible. Blobs of flesh couldn't move. It had to be something else. I simply didn't know what. I realized with a horrified breath that it had gone quiet now. The shuffling sounds had stopped. The air felt heavy, dense. They were there, all around me. I could feel them. I was surrounded. I tried to stay still, silent, despite my racing heart and staggered breaths. What now? Should I try and run? But I could barely even move before, and I still didn't know what was out there. No, I had to stick to the plan. As long as I stayed still, as long as I didn't reveal that I was awake, they should leave me alone. Seconds passed. Minutes. A soft wind blew the grasses around me, tickling the edges of my chin. But I could hear no further movement. No more rasping, scraping noises of something crawling across the ground. Maybe my plan was working. Maybe they had no interest in things that didn't move. Maybe they would eventually leave when they realized I wasn't going to wake up. As long as I stayed right where I was, as long as I stayed still, stayed quiet, I should be safe. I must have drifted off again at some point, because the next time I roused to consciousness, I could feel the sun on my face, warm and tingling as it danced over my skin. I tried to open my eyes, but soon realized I couldn't. I couldn't even feel them, couldn't sense where my eyes were in my head. I tried to reach up to feel my face, but I couldn't do that either. Where were my hands? Why couldn't I move anything? What was happening? Straining to move some part of my body, I managed to topple over, the ground shifting beneath me. I bumped into something on my right, the sensation of something cold and hard spreading through the right side of my body. I tried to move again, swallowed up by the strange sensation of not being able to sense anything. It was less that I had no control over my body, and more that there was nothing to control. I hit the cold surface again, trying to feel my way around it with the parts of me that I could move. It was solid, and there was a small gap between it and the next surface, almost like bars, metal bars. A sudden realization dawned on me, and I went rigid with shock. My mind scrambled to understand. I was in a cage, just like the ones on the body farm. But if I was in a cage, did that mean... I thought about those lumps of flesh, those inanimate, meaty blobs that had been stuck inside the cages, without a mouth or eyes, without hands or feet. Unable to move, unable to speak. Was I now one of them? Nothing but a blob of glistening red flesh trapped in a cage, waiting to be poked until I bled. If you guys enjoyed these stories, make sure to like and subscribe for weekly content. Thank you. See you next time.